Okay, welcome back, everybody, once again, one more time on YouTube Live. I'm your host, Jim Spiewak, joined once again by Nathan Evershed. He is a defense attorney that is not associated with this case. We have been talking all week, Nathan, about the trial of Kouri Richins. She is the Utah woman who is standing trial right now, accused of killing her husband, poisoning him with fentanyl in their home in Camas, Utah. So thanks again, once again, for taking some time with us to break down not only today, but also we're going to look into sort of the week that was at trial. Appreciate your time.
Happy to be here.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with today. Another full day in court. What were some of your big key takeaways?
It was a concluding testimony of the housekeeper, Carmen, who the allegation is that she's the one that provided the fentanyl to Kouri, who then Kouri provided eventually to her husband, which killed him. Huge witness. But then we also have the prosecutor's answer to the question, well, how did Carmen get this fentanyl? And they attempted to answer that question with the witness here today as well.
So just and we'll talk about this when we wrap up as well, but in sort of a Cliff Notes version, what is the big takeaway from the entire week that was, would you say?
Was what happened? How did he die? When did that happen? And then the question of like, what did the scene look like and what was going on? And then the question is, well, it was fentanyl that apparently killed him. Well, how did that fentanyl get into his body? And where did the fentanyl come from? So that was the essential aspect of the week. What happened that he did die of fentanyl? Where did the fentanyl come from? And that's exactly what the prosecution was trying to answer.
Did anything surprise you, or was it pretty standard status quo in terms of like, we're going to start right at the scene of the crime and work our way through from there?
Yeah, I think that's exactly how you have to do it. At the end of the day, these jurors, they are public servants to a T. They don't know anything probably about this case or about how things are done. So they're sitting there with their own individual backgrounds. And so what prosecutors are trying to do is make it as simple as they can. Who he was, his family members testified, for example, where he lived, what happened. There was a 911 phone call, and then just to kind of build it up towards trying to answer questions as to how this could have happened.
So we're going to play some sound here from Carmen. This is the former housekeeper, and she is the one that allegedly supplied the drugs to Kouri at Kouri's request. So this was cross-examination, so the defense team had a chance to sort of discredit this witness to the best of their ability. It seems like that was their strategy. So we're going to go ahead and cue up some sound here of what you're hearing is the defense team cross-examining Carmen, really trying to get at the credibility of this witness. Let's go ahead and listen to that right now.
That time you said you only purchased 2 times from Mr. Crozier, correct?
Correct.
Now you're saying you purchased 3 times.
Correct.
I know you've changed your story, and you're now saying there was another purchase, but we're talking about what you told them a year after these events. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so what do we take away of the defense saying, well, you said one thing first, but now you're saying another thing?
Again, it's their attempt to discredit Carmen, saying that your memory is foggy, that it's hazy, that you're saying things a year after. You said it was originally 2, but then you've said 3. And probably alluding, in fact, have been alluding that, hey, you've been told to say certain things from the police because it makes their case better. So it's an effort to completely discredit her.
All right, so one of the other really, really important witnesses that took the stand today, his name is Robert Crozier. So this is the person that the prosecution is saying supplied the drugs to Carmen, the woman that we just heard from, who then supplied the drugs allegedly to Kouri at Kouri's request. And there was a lot of back and forth in court today. He was on the stand for quite some time. And so Robert Crozier, again, is the one that allegedly sold the drugs to Carmen. And there were some disputes about how many times they had met, what was actually in the drugs that Robert sold to Carmen. So I'm going to go ahead and cue up a little bit more of this sound. So again, this is some of Robert's sound today while testifying on the stand. Let's go ahead and take a listen to that.
Like, I'm not even real clear if I had met her a second time. to be honest with you. Like, I know that I met her the one time. And it might have been twice, but I really, like, it was like 4 years ago. So, like, I don't really remember if I met her more than once. But if it would have been the same thing, like, I would have gotten the money from her, given her the things, and left.
Do you know that investigators asked you, it wasn't like she was asking for oxys and got M30s?
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah.
Do you recall your answer to that question?
I do not.
And we heard that a lot from Robert on the stand today. I don't have any recollection of that. I can't recall. I don't remember. So in the beginning of that soundbite, to give a little bit more context around it, Carmen had testified that she had met up with Robert to buy drugs off of him more than once, multiple times. We just heard Robert testify there. He only remembers one encounter. So what do we take of that back and forth?
So this brings me back when I was a prosecutor. In this case, there's an allegation of drug distribution. And usually, whether it's a drug distribution case or a gang case or something like that, when you're trying to get evidence from people that are involved in such realms, they're not easy. Okay. And Mr. Crozier certainly was not an easy witness for the prosecution. And so one thing to take away is it's going to be interesting to see how the jury responds to that. On the one hand, he gave them something, which is, I did deliver drugs to Carmen, which is better than nothing. In a case of trying to prove drug distribution, it's really nice to hear, one, how Ms. Richins apparently got it, and then two, how the person who gave it to Ms. Richins apparently got it. That's better than not. But on the other hand, you're dealing with someone that says, I think it was just one. That's all I can remember, even though he may have said I did it twice. It was very difficult. I was able to witness that entire direct examination from the prosecutor with Mr. Crozier, and it was not easy. That was like, it was just, again, going over affidavits and going over his prior statements and going over things. Not an easy witness for the prosecution, that's for sure.
And in part of that testimony, there were things that were in a sworn affidavit that Robert had signed.
Yes.
That he was saying on the stand, well, I don't know if I remember it that way. And the prosecutor was saying, well, this is your signature on this affidavit. So this is a witness, though, that the prosecution probably, they have to put this person on the stand, but they prepare knowing that this is going to be potentially a difficult witness.
Yeah, and they're thinking they're lucky stars tonight that they have that affidavit, Jim. I mean, because that's the thing that was introduced as an exhibit. No doubt they're going to be pointing to that in the closing argument, saying, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you have to say about Mr. Crozier, at the end of the day, he did sign this affidavit, and he did say he met with Carmen, and he did admit to distributing fentanyl, at least at some time. And, that's not that big of a stretch to think. The fentanyl Carmen got is what she said happened. She got it from Mr. Crozier. So a very difficult witness, but they do have an affidavit and an exhibit that he signed that pretty much points him to admitting that he did distribute drugs to Carmen.
And it was also Robert's testimony today, as we lead into this next piece of sound, that he only sold Carmen oxys, or M30s as they were called. Okay, let's go ahead and take a listen.
Do you agree in the interview generally that you confirmed that you sold pills containing fentanyl to Carmen Lauber?
No, I said that, from what I read, I said that she knew what she got what she wanted. Whatever she asked me for is what she got, but I'm pretty sure it was Roxy's, and it was, the whole questioning with those cops was them kind of telling me what I had been doing.
So Robert testified right there about an interview that he did with detectives years prior, and he said right there, well, they were kind of telling me what to say. And so what do we make of that exchange?
It's not easy for someone like him to be on this wide-viewed jury trial. He has his own life. He has his own friends. He has his own connections. And so, this is the last thing he wants to do is to be testifying, in this case, for the state. And so how the jury looks at all of this, he it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's something where again he comes in and he says, well, this is what happened. I don't remember this or that, but there was an affidavit, there were prior statements, and how the jury sorts through all of that is going to be very interesting.
So when a jury is taking a look at competing witness testimony, what does it come down to? Does it come down to who the jury believes is more believable? Because what we have here is we have two different people saying two different things. Well, I met this person multiple times. Well, no, I only met this person once. And well, this person sold me fentanyl. Well, I don't think I sold this person fentanyl. How does the jury decide?
Well, the prosecution is going to do their job of saying, listen, put yourself in his position. He has some difficulties with whatever. And he obviously didn't want to be here and didn't want to testify, but he did make prior statements, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, and you have an exhibit of his affidavit, and this is what he did admit to, X, Y, and Z. Admittedly, on this Friday of February 27th, he was saying different things, but you have to understand and have to give it whatever weight it is. But by the way, he never denied saying that he never gave drugs to Carmen. And that's huge. So of all the things he did say and didn't say, the one thing he never backed away from was that he did meet her in a Draper parking lot where she said she met him and did that. Now, on the other side, the defense is going to just say, listen, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, how can you believe Carmen? How can you believe Mr. Crozier? He never said that he gave fentanyl. She never, and she even said on the stand that she wasn't there to see if this fentanyl was actually delivered, et cetera. And so their effort is just to continue to say, how can you believe any of these people? It's our client that is on the line here, and this has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt by the state, and they don't have the people that can do that because none of them are credible.
So what we have as we wrap up this week's coverage, we first saw and heard from members of Eric's family early on day one. We heard from a toxicologist that confirmed that fentanyl was in Eric's body, 15 nanograms, when 3 nanograms is the lethal, deadly amount. So we learned that. We heard over multiple days from a CSI, this evidence expert, or as one of the attorneys called her, the evidence lady. This is the person that oversees all of the evidence of the case. We heard from her over the course of multiple days. We heard from Carmen over multiple days, which you heard from right here, and Robert, along with a couple other witnesses. So what foundation, I guess, has been laid based on the prosecution? Right now, this is the prosecution calling their witnesses. After week one, what do we think we have learned so far this week?
To kind of break it up in the most simple way, the prosecution is focused on on what happened, and it was a death. How that happened, well, it's a death by poisoning, and how that was delivered was to Miss Richins, who was delivered by Carmen, who got it from Mr. Crozier. So that's the
kind of chain of custody.
Correct. And so they're answering the questions of what this case is about and how this even happened. Then they're going to turn to the why. And from the opening statements that we saw, it looks like some of their best evidence is in that question. That's going to be upcoming.
And as far as the defense is concerned, did it seem like they did an effective job, or pretty much everything that they could do in their cross-examination? Again, the state's the one that's calling witnesses right now, so the defense is cross-examining all of these witnesses.
Yes, they had 2 huge witnesses. Both of them happen to be on the stand today. In that it was Carmen and Mr. Crozier. You can see the cross-examination. I thought both cross-examinations were quite effective. You can see why they would put so much towards them, because there's no doubt from the medical examiner as to what happened. No one's really questioning that. And so I thought the defense, they landed a lot of blows. They're bringing up credibility issues, and they're trying to do their best to help the jury believe that can't be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
Anything surprise you through the week for this, or was it pretty standard for you?
I think it was pretty standard. I mean, it's a very intense case. A lot of people there. It is when you see so many people in the gallery, you can see like there's a lot of people interested in this, and obviously a lot of people interested in this online and throughout the world. But it's a pretty standard case in terms of lots of exhibits, lots of arguments, lots of legal motions, and objections, and all of this stuff. because every piece and every detail is really, really important. But it's a pretty standard trial so far.
And as we mentioned, we're breaking down, trying to add extra context around what was said. These jurors, they're going home for the weekend, and they're not allowed to talk about the case. They're not allowed to read about the case or see anything about the case, and they're expected to be back, first thing Monday morning. We're expecting another 4 weeks out of this trial. But the big question is that I've been asking you, what do we think the jury is thinking about right now? And again, we talked about it yesterday, but we really won't know until that verdict is read if they believe this person or if they believe that person more. And so week 1 is in the books, and we do appreciate your time and giving us all this extra context around this. So we're going to wrap it up right now. This is week 1 in the books for Kouri Richins, her murder trial. Again, she is the woman who is accused of killing her husband with a lethal dose of fentanyl here in the state of Utah. So we are expected 4 more weeks of this trial. And Nathan, we appreciate your time as always for helping us break down this very, as you mentioned, complex case. And it's probably only going to get a little bit more complex as we go on.
For sure.
So thanks again for your time. We really do appreciate it. If you want to go ahead and like and subscribe to our YouTube page, you will get updates constantly throughout the entirety of this case. We do have reporters that are there in Summit County inside the courtroom. So make sure you give us a like, and you will stay up to date on everything related to this case. So thanks again, everybody, and we will see you again on Monday.